Hey, hello everybody. Secondhand Dan coming to you again from the Penny Pincher Thrift Shop land. It is November 17th. It is like about 40 degrees out here. Maybe a little warmer than 40 degrees, but hey, I'm here for less than another month and then I'm headed back down to Florida. So see if I can't get a video or two posted before I head down there. But right now we're going to go inside the building and I have something I want to tear apart. So that should be interesting. I thought I'd go ahead before I go in the building and point out what the front of my building is about. Obviously this is the store, the Penny Pincher's Thrift Shop right here. And that first door is the door into the showroom, into the main selling area. The whole lower level of this building is available as store. Stuff is available for sale. But the second door actually leads to the apartments upstairs. And so that's why there's a knocker on it. So there's a staircase just on the other side of the door. And this door here, I call it the breezeway. It opens up into a narrow room. And the last door opens up to another room. But it's all connected together. There isn't anywhere that you can't access if you're on the lower level. I believe at one time they probably maybe rented this section out as a commercial building. Maybe they rented this section out as a commercial building. And then of course, this side. This is where I was told it originally was a TV store in here. And that's probably back in the 60s. And I was told upstairs used to be a VFW before it was converted into apartments. All right, well, we're going to go in this door. I call this the breezeway because it's a little narrow it's about the size of a garage width, so, and it's the section between the rest of the other halves of the building. But over here, like I said, you can get to everywhere from anywhere on this lower level. Now, at one time, I'm sure that maybe this was blocked in. You can see the line of demarcation right there. So this, like I said, probably originally was a separate entity. This building was probably rented out in, anywhere like 3 different commercial sections. When I first moved in, there was, I think, 4 electric meters on it and 3 gas meters. Well, I got us down to 1 gas meter through plumbing things together, and I got us down just to 2 electric services. So we have 2 electric bills in this building, the way it's wired up. All right, well, let's go through the breezeway here. And I call this, through this little doorway, the baby breezeway. Because it's even a smaller area, but it is a pass-through. Behind this wall, in the back of the shelves, is the bathroom in the showroom. But this is going to be my secondary shop in here. You can see I'm already utilizing it as some shop space. I got the bandsaw. It's been going in here for a year. I have a little table saw. I have the press, chop saw, and here's a lathe I picked up a year ago. I've got an interesting video on that if you want to look in my library of videos. It's still a project that I'm trying to get up and running, but I haven't devoted enough time to make it a success. And here's my main workshop. You've probably seen this if you follow me at all. This is the main workshop. And like I said, 90% of the stuff is for sale Actually, I 100% for sale if you would give me the price I want on some things. But, you know, you're not going to like the prices if you say, hey, how much for the toolbox? Well, I'd have to replace it, so I'm going to charge enough that I make a profit off of selling that one and have enough money to go towards another one. My natural gas space heater here in the showroom. We do have a furnace overhead, but I think it's more efficient to run this than it is for the furnace. All right, well, I told you I was in the mood to tear something down, so what it is, it's back here on the floor. And the reason we're going to tear it down is we want to, you know, get the scrap copper out of it. So it's an old, well, I don't know if I say relatively how old it is. I found this on the curb. So I didn't bother to try and get it to see what it would need to possibly be fixed. I already have a welder. This is a MIG welder. I'll show you my MIG welder over here. So I'm not sure how that would compare to the Craftsman if the Craftsman was running perfectly fine, but right now I'm happy with this one. The truth be known, I haven't actually used it enough to actually warrant what was paid for it, but I hope to increase the usage of it as time goes by and I get into more work projects. But like I said, we are going to tear this one down. There is some salvageable metals in there. Okay, well, I need to clear off a workbench. Right now I have a stereo system on it. I want to sell it, so I had to test it. And when I went ahead and tested it, the volume controls were really scratchy on it. So when you would move the buttons, it's actually a slide volume control. And when you would move it, you get a So I got some tuner cleaner from Amazon, and I started opening up the unit to get access to the tuner, and it turned out that I probably didn't have to open up as much as I did, you know, because I really couldn't get to the back of the volume controls anyway, so I ended up just getting enough of the face off where I could pull the knobs off and shoot some in the back and forth slot. And that seemed to have solved the problem. So I'm going to post this for sale on eBay. Well, I just got back from church. Let's see, it's 1:20. What did I get here? About 12. About 12 o'clock. I've been here home since 12 o'clock. Cleaning up. Watched a little bit of TV. Had some lunch upstairs. I've got my project I'm working on. These lamps are a little bit time consuming. Sometimes it takes me 6 months, a year to finish a lamp. It's in between everything else I'm doing. And there's no rush. So every once in a while, maybe I'll work on it for an hour. Maybe I'll work on it for 2 hours. But it's come a long way. But it still needs probably another hour or two. And then I can call it done. And I'll put a signature on it and put it in my showroom with the other lamps that I've created in the past. I said I came from church, and when I came from church, I left with a cup of coffee from there. So let me reheat this. Hit the 30-second. Booyah. I need to turn on another light here. There we go. Let there be more light. Here in my workshop, the temperature is 52 degrees. I mean, workable. I would like it warmer, but there again, the expense of heating it just so I can putz around for an hour or two, it's not worth what it would cost in dollars to heat this place. I am toying with the idea of getting a maybe a waste oil heater. I saw a fella on the YouTube, he was playing with a diesel heater. That's what he said it was, a diesel heater, although they call it a diesel heater just because they put diesel fuel in it, but it doesn't run on a diesel engine. No, it doesn't have pistons in it. It's still just like I think like a torpedo heater of type thing. He didn't explain how it was working, but he did put a mixture of oil. He was experimenting with seeing what different fuels it would run on. He tried mixing, I guess, the diesel and some Wesson oil, and it worked, but then he tried running some used engine oil in it. And that's when it occurred to me, why don't you just get a waste oil heater? But, you know, we all do what we do. Some of us are spot on, some of us are coming out of left field, but I'm going to get this welder up on the table. It weighs, I don't know, what, like 35 pounds. That's a guesstimate on my part. If I had little else to do in general, I'd be curious as to whether or not this thing would actually run. It can't be as good as mine because it has a 110 cord on it, and mine is a 220. So that tells me right there that the MIG welder that I have underneath the workbench is going to be more than likely better than this because you have more amps available. And what's kind of a kicker, I went ahead and bought, I have another welder in the back room, the old standard arc welder. You put the stick in there. I think I paid like 20 bucks for it at auction. It's huge, but it didn't have a ground clamp, and I think I went ahead and ordered one off of Amazon. And what you know, here's a ground clamp on this thing. So I don't know if this arrived after I bought that or not, but you know, you lose track of some of the things you own and don't own when you have a business like this. And this is a nice looking ground clamp too. Now what this has that mine doesn't have, I don't know if it came with it, is gauges for, I guess, running a gas to a shielding gas. Now mine has the ability to run a shielding gas also. So I'm not sure, I think, is there just a port? Yeah, there's a little nipple on the back of the machine. So I guess it goes in there and comes up out of the hose somewhere. All right, let me get my coffee out of the microwave. "30 seconds wasn't enough. Need some more heat on it." All right, well, let's, I've got this PVC cutter. Let me cut this gauge off this hose here. I cut this hose off this machine. Yeah, it's just got a port on the back of it where this hose plugs in, but the port on this one looks a little larger than the port on mine, but But once it's inside, though, it's downsized. I can see that. Here, let's get you a close-up on this machine before I tear it apart. Here's a spool of wire on it. This thing's been sitting outside, this whole machine's been sitting outside on my sidewalk with a plastic bin over it to keep the weather off. Because in the back of mine I was thinking, hey, maybe I'll see if I can fix that. Oh, that's nice. It came with all these extra tips. They'll probably fit in my welder. Nozzle. Couple of screws for the screw in. The cover was here with it too. I didn't take the cover off. The cover was already unscrewed, so it was just flopping around on top of it. So it tells me that somebody was in there making some sort of attempt to fix it. I don't know if they gave up too soon or they just determined that, yeah, it was beyond hope. Now over here, that's what I'm after, is this large transformer. It's pretty beefy with copper. And then there's a junior one that's got a beefy wind of copper too. So now I'm going to do what I don't necessarily like to do, and that's going to say, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. My wife's been after me to do that on a regular basis. All right. Coffee's a bit warmer now. I have a melting pot, and I can melt aluminum, copper, brass, gold, silver. I've only used it one time. I did a silver melt, so you might want to check out that video if you want to see me melting silver. I just bought the melting pot off of Amazon because I came across some scrap silver I had, and I determined that it would pay for the melting pot. So it did, with some money left over, a couple of dollars. So I'm glad I did that. And now I want to get into possibly melting some copper. I haven't done anything but melt the silver so far, but I want to try moving on to copper. I'm watching some videos. I keep asking some of these questions. I'm like, what happens if you mix your copper and your brass together? You get bronze. What happens if you have brass and there's little pieces of bronze get mixed in? How does that affect the value? Do they melt together smoothly? We're going to learn this together, it looks like. But let's tear this sucker apart, because then I can scrap the plastic in the garbage can. And I haven't, I think, but maybe torn apart one transformer or two. Transformers aren't the easiest thing to get apart. I mean, you can get them out, but to get the copper out of it, well, that's going to be interesting. Now, one thing I haven't done, and I'm planning on doing it now, is saving wire. Oh, the wife put garbage in my... This here is supposed to be my bin for wire. And when it gets full, I'm going to see about stripping it and melting it down for the copper. But looks like the wife emptied a dustpan's worth of trash into it. She didn't know. I didn't point it out yet. Now, this bin has been full in the past with copper and brass fittings. But this time I figured I'd just try and fill it up with decent wire. And I may get to the point where I say, oh, I got enough wire. And if I just go ahead and buy a stripper, it'll pay for the stripper, and I'll have a wire stripper. It'll pay for that wire stripper, and and I'll still be making money. Okay, well, I bought a pair of cutters over here. There's a lot of zip ties in here. A lot of zip ties. So, snip, 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 snip. Snip, snip, snip. It's been just over a year ago, I think it was September, where I posted my first video with the intent of trying to gain some followers. My first actual video on YouTube that I posted goes back 11 years ago, but that was just for the fun of it. That wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be a YouTuber and get followers. No. But my very first video, I'm not even in it. You just hear my voice in it and my wife's voice. But it's been a year since I've decided to try and gain some followers. And that video was taking apart a toaster. I think I call it dissecting a crummy toaster. So go ahead and check it out. It's about a scrap toaster and a man. My cousin Roy said, yeah, Cousin Dan, I watched a couple of your videos and some are kind of boring. Well, I said, well, that's a good thing. You know, some people need something like that to be put to sleep if they have insomnia. But one of these days I'll get down, I always say this almost every video, I'm going to get down the editing technique to make them more interesting. But I've got nobody, I always say that, nobody to show me the ropes. So I'm flying by the seat of my pants here. I use an editor called CapCut, and I've been able to do very little with it. That's my fault though. But I'm still learning how to use CapCut. And I do it on my phone. It probably would be better if I could do it on a computer, but I've added sometimes maybe an intro fade in. I've added music to one video, so. I got cited for my last video. Owen goes to the Happy Mini Mart, my grandson, because in the background you could hear music coming over the radio. And so they put a flag on my video, although the video still plays. It says copyright infringement. So I'm not sure how you work with copyright, because I see some people's videos are posted and they'll list the actual song and the artist doing it. Does that mean they themselves, the blogger, took the time to give the artist credit, or did AI do that? I'm like, well, if AI did it, why don't it just do it for mine? I mean, there could have been more than like a minute and a half of, I think it was We Are Family, Sister Sledge, in the background. And it wasn't that I wanted it in the background, it just showed up. So now I'm like, the radio is right behind me and it's off right now. I would like a little music while I'm working, even if it's just me that's hearing it, but it could be my microphone hearing it also. And I don't want to get that copyright in flag again right now until I figure out what you do with it when you get one. Now, if you're wondering what welder this is, usually everything has a model number, right? So I think this is a AP001. That's the only thing I see on here other than Craftsman. It was a 60 amps, 21 volt DC, max 30 volt DC. I think maybe I'll try and save this grounding cable for my other welder. Let me show you my other welder. All right, here's my other welder. It is a CBBT, an FI. I don't know, where is the grounding clamp that I bought for this? There's the cord to plug it in. I didn't come with a grounding cable, but I was going to improvise and maybe take I have some stranded wire that has like 9 wires in it, and I thought if I twisted all those strands together, that would be enough. But I bought this for it. It was missing this. This is the one that you move these things around to change your voltages. I know I've plugged it in the past, but if it works, maybe I'll... Oh, it's also supposed to be a battery charger? Tick, 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 tick. Yeah, we'll let that run for a while. See if it doesn't go ding. Well, I guess it just shuts off even if you don't hear it ding. It's not an egg timer. So, comment what you think about this welder. Now, there's the actual name. A Frawny. All right, well, let's get back to tearing the other one down. All right, well, I said I want to remove the ground cable on here. It runs through here and comes onto this side. And there seems to be some large Allen screw holding it from being jerked, I guess, back out of the machine. Here's a... Here's the end of the grounding wire. All right, well, let me see if I can find an Allen to fit that. All right, I got a set of Allens here. They're metric. Okay, like I said, I think this purpose of this Allen was just to keep you from jerking the wire, causing stress up where it actually was connected. Okay, let's see if it don't come out now. No. Could it be there's a compression on it also? Well, there might be a compression clamping down on it also, so I'm going to get a wrench on this and loosen that up. Wrenches. That's 25 millimeter. Okay, that fits on there. Okay, it went in. It went in with the whole holder, but hey, there we go. Come off of there. I was afraid of that. Looks like the eyelet is bigger than the... there it goes. Okay. So there's one grounding clamp, and we're going to put that with the Frawny welder here. And there's got to be a video on that. So I picked this machine up a year ago on a curb. I had to do a U-turn to get it. And it was one of those roads like a 2-lane highway, so had to be quick. It wasn't much of a shoulder. All right, well, it looks like this aluminum plate is in the way. Ugh. That's probably what, a rectifier? It's like a long stud going through the rectifier. I mean, I'm calling it a rectifier. It doesn't mean that it is, but it doesn't mean that it ain't. But from what knowledge I've gained over the years of messing with things, this definitely looks like a rectifier. Porcelain insulator. Now some appliances, I mean technically this is an appliance. Anything that serves a purpose and generates power, like a vacuum cleaner, television, or VCR, or a welder, is an appliance. But some appliances, you have to make sure that you don't get a shock while taking them apart. Because some things will hold electricity for a while after they've been shut off. But this thing's been off for years. Okay, 11 doesn't work. You think it could be a 10. Where's my 10? There's what it is. I'm a fan of Craftsman tools. Not that I think they're so great, but they're for their price. I couldn't see paying for Snap-on, or Cornwell. Every once in a while when I was working as a mechanic in a garage, I might pick up a tool from Snap-on or Cornwell. But I'd rather keep most of my money or when it comes to tools, especially if the tool is going to work just as well as the other brand. I know on occasion sometimes the performance of a Snap-on might be better than a Craftsman, but even if it is better on that occasion, do I need it for as often as I would be using it? I say I was a mechanic, but it was never turned into a career, so I worked in a transmission shop for 5 years, but I actually worked in the machine shop end of the transmission shop. So I didn't have to have a box full of tools. Eventually, though, they did start using me to remove and replace transmissions. So I would go back and forth between the garage and the machine shop in the back, depending on what was needed. And I had just a top box that I had tools. It seemed to be enough to change transmissions. Okay, very interesting. Now, still one more bolt on here. Right now the Steelers are playing football. I wouldn't mind watching, but just watching with my wife, who tends to want to fall asleep most of the time. She definitely likes to watch the Steeler game, but she also likes to fall asleep. So, but if I was watching with a couple of buddies at a little Steeler party or something, I'd be doing that instead of this. But Nobody invited me to any Steeler party. What that looks like? You get it yet? Oh, that's a lousy sound effect. Anyway, you get it. It's Star Wars. X-Wing fighter? No, not an X-Wing fighter. Whatever they call it. Imperial fighter, I think it was. Now, these are still joined together by diodes. I'm pretty sure those are diodes. And diodes allow electricity to travel one way, but not the other way. All right, well, I'm going to have to do some snipping. Pieces of aluminum are salvageable. Looks like those diodes, probably if I just set this in a vise and whack it with a hammer, I'll probably knock those diodes out. But I'm not here for the aluminum, I'm here for the copper. You'll never take me alive, you dirty coppers. You know, old habits die hard, and I know I could just probably go crazy and start snipping even more wires, but I'm a mechanic at heart, so my tendency to just rip things apart when they have screws and nuts on them, I tend to take the screw and nut route first. For one thing, make sure you maximize the length of your wires when you do that too. Now, all right, well, I'm going to see about taking this master voltage selector off. There's a screw dead center in that knob. Then I expect there to be maybe a collar nut. I'm calling it a collar nut underneath the knob holding the switch in place. Two Phillips screws. 1, 2. So that's what's holding it in place. There's the voltage selector switch. Oh, I didn't expect to see that. I got leads tinted in solder. It slid under the screws. Instead of the typical U-shaped, it slides under the screw. Now something like this switch would be able to be reused as in a steampunk industrial lamp, but I would have to make sure that it was protected, that people couldn't accidentally touch the contact. So in that respect, it's not so good for a steampunk installation, unless I just needed a switch and I could bury it behind a panel where nobody would be able to touch it. So we're going to go ahead and put this knob back on and just throw it in my pile of switches. What's up with that? This knob looks like it's been possibly chewed on. Huh. Well, rodents have been known to eat plastic and wire insulation. And the reason that happens is because some of the powers that be determined that we needed to make our wires out of a biodegradable, more biodegradable, more environmentally friendly material. So now we have material that tends to crap out as far as insulation. I know several auto manufacturers, they took that route. I think was there like actually a soy-based something in their wire, and their wires are now cracking, and the insulation's falling off them, or rodents are eating them. Is that not the right screw? Well, looking in there, I don't even see any threads in there. So what was holding that knob on? All right, I give up. Moving right along. Now this wire feed knob, it's got a blind screw. Instead of being dead center where I can see it, it's up underneath. I can't even see it to figure out whether it's Phillips, slotted, or Allen. So I guess let's start out with a small Allen and see what happens when we put it in there. See if it engages. I don't know if I'm turning something or I'm just twisting in the, I think I might actually be onto something, although it's like it's stuck, don't want to come out. No, that didn't do anything. So I'm thinking, was it that one too small? Because you can't see in there. And this one doesn't, okay, this one doesn't engage at all. So I'm going to say, let's try Phillips. A small Phillips. This Phillips is too big. Now I suspect this contains a thick copper wire, because when I get to the other end inside, you have this. So let's take apart this welding nozzle. You know, and one aspect is, I guess, it just saddens me a little bit to take something like this apart and scrap it out. But I mean, if I had some friends or something, or I thought I had a resale value on it, I would have listed it on Marketplace or sold it to a friend just for a handful of dollars or something like that. But when you list something like this on Marketplace, you're not going to get to anybody who's going to want to buy it to repair it. They're just going to probably criticize you, say, hey, buddy, do you think your hunk of junk is worth something? You know, they'll start leaving nasty comments. Or if somebody does want to buy it, they'll say, oh, I could scrap that out for the copper, and he wants $30 for it. And they'll leave something like, I'll give you 10. They don't even ask, could you take 10? They'll just say something like, I'll give you 10. So, and before I just let another scrapper get at it, I may as well just get at it myself. Ugh. The last screw is always the most stubborn, huh? Yeah, the nut on the other side's turning. This nut here is spinning. You know, I'm doing this largely, though I want the copper, there, I think it's loosened up a little bit. I want the copper out of this, but I'm just finding it maybe a little bit, there again, therapeutic. It's kind of like building something in reverse engineering. So, there we go. No, is there still a half holding it? No, the hanger's holding it. Oh, you got to pull the screw out. It passes through the hanger. There we go. There we go. And look what's inside. Copper wire. And brass. Plus, I'm, you know, like I say, reverse engineering, I'm getting a little educated on how it works. So here's a tube here that allows the gas to flow through into the shielding gas that would come out around your welding. So that tells me mine over here must be largely built the same way. Very similar. I'm not going to open mine up to find out, that's for sure. Hey guys, something weird's going on out front, so let's run out and check that out. I heard some weird scraping noises, so I don't know, is there a refrigerator in the middle of the street? Evidently, this truck has dropped its load. Now, I don't know if this fella's standing here beside it, if he's just somebody's going to help him put it back up. Or did he actually make contact with it? The guy's got to be at fault. How could you, it must have been in a standing up position, first off. Why would something fall off? You could have just flipped that thing up over the, oh, dolly and all came off the man's truck. There's an appliance dolly laying on the ground. Pretty sure the scrapyard isn't open today, but maybe it's just accumulating some scrap and getting ready for the Monday to take it in. Well, it would have been nice if we'd seen that actually happen. Interesting. I hope he learned his lesson about strapping things down. I mean, I've had a thing or two, you know, tilt inside my truck, but nothing ever fly out of it. So that fellow there is just helping this guy pick up his lost load. All right, well, I think that show's over. But I thought I heard the noise. He's lucky he didn't cause any accident. What if that had, you know, fallen off and slid into head-on traffic? So, well, sorry it wasn't more interesting than that, but different things happen around here. I've seen plenty of accidents out in front, but that's the first I know of a refrigerator flying out of a trailer. But yeah, while I was here working, taking this apart, I thought I heard a All right, well, I'm going to attack the wire feed on this. Looks like a lot of Phillips screws. Wow, that's a long screw. Yeah, it's like 3 inches long. Well, that's not good for it. Let's try again. You have to press really hard. Well, good thing I don't need to reuse that screw. Ah, messed that one up. Why are they spinning? All right. Oh, this looks like copper. This roll of wire. Mild mild steel MIG wire. I can't determine what it's made of. I'm trying to read on here. It's 12 gauge. Yeah, it probably wouldn't hurt to, I don't know if it's a good idea to throw that into my copper mix or not. Or just save it as baling wire. Yeah, I think I just save it as baling wire. Now I'm trying to get this lead off that goes to here. As I said, there's a nice copper wire in it. I've already stripped out one screw here. And the other one just keeps spinning. Oh, there's a nut on the back side. Okay. Hey, it's loose. Alrighty. Try and get to the other end of this wire. It passes through this. Okay, multiple screw sizes. Why are the smallest ones the hardest ones? Okay, I need a dinky Phillips screwdriver. Or more pointed. There we go. I told Cousin Roy today, I said I was looking at the possibility of melting down some copper, but he said he'd like to be around while I'm doing that. But he is babysitting his grandson right now, so we'll see if it meltdown time lines up with when he's available. I think he said he might be watching his grandkid till like about 3 o'clock. And it's 2:45. No, it's a quarter after 2 right now. See, here's the size of the tube going in from your bottle of gas that acts as a shielding gas, and it goes in, and that's what, like 3/16, and it goes down to like half that size on the inside. So this is pure garbage here. So I'm leaving for Florida, and one of my preparations when getting ready to leave is to try and leave the impression with people that still come by the place that there's still people here. So what I do is I'll save bags of garbage if it's not waste, like food or the grandkids' dirty diapers. If it's just, paper and cardboard and plastic and wood and stuff like that, I'll put it in a garbage bag, and when it gets full, set it aside and fill up another one. And then I'll tell my son, put one of those bags of trash out every other week, so that the impression is that people are still actively here. That's more security when you do that. That, and I put holiday lights in the window. So Christmas is coming up. I'll put some maybe green and red lights in for Christmas, but I'll have a secondary string with it, but not lit up, of maybe pink for Valentine's Day. And I'll tell my son, okay, well, after about mid-January, unplug the Christmas color lights, and then maybe in the last week of January, plug in the pink lights for Valentine's Day. All right, well, I think we are approaching the coils. Let's see, the coils, I do feel something going through the bottom, mounting them into this case. Oh, only screws? Phillips screws holding these big coils in. Booyah. The coil is falling out. Okay, it's free from its moorings. I think I'm going to throw out all this screws and bolts. I've been saving so many for so long, they're getting out of hand. Maybe I'll save a few choice washers and nuts, but sheet metal screws, I don't think I need to save any more of those. Okay, what's holding this coil in? Oh, man. I'm seeing something that's luminous-ish here. Looks like this might be aluminum. What? All that weight means it's the darn frame around the coil that's all the weight. The coil itself looks to be aluminum. The coils of wire, they're just dipped in insulation. so as to look like, well, it wasn't their intention for it to make it look like copper. It was their intention to insulate it. But it's not worth anything. It's not worth pulling these rolls out of this support because it's aluminum. I mean, there may be a pound of wire in there, of aluminum wire, and aluminum wire ain't worth that kind of effort. So this is just going on my scrap metal pile. And if that one's aluminum, that probably means this one down here, the remaining coil, is also aluminum. Well, and we did get some copper out of it, though. Like I said, the stinger wire is copper, and the ground wire is copper. So, and there's the small wires, copper. I don't know why they have all these nozzles tips floating around in here. Try and take off the 110 cord. I've got that same type of compression fitting on the wire that I had on the ground wire. So I need a wrench. Release this. I'll probably save these compression fittings for in case I have a project where I pass a wire through a hole. I'm going to have to, more than likely, well, no, well, let's see. If I take that ground wire off down there, maybe all three of these will still pass through. Socket, socket, socket. Five sixteenths is too big. And just nut drivers, nut drivers. Too big. Ah, here we go. Perfect size. It's a 7mm metric. Okay. Let's see if these wires pass through this compression grommet. They might pass through one at a time. Let's see if we can get the ground wire through first. Yep, there goes the ground. Now these have the plastic housings on it. It's hard to push one down through by itself. The whole wire wants to go through. Oh, maybe if I just take my time and put them side by side. Or if I lap one over the other, there we go, like that. It is so close. If I have a pair of pliers on, I'd be able to do it. I just can't control them without a pair of pliers on it. Okay, there goes the white one. Next one's easy peasy. There we go. There's that compression fitting with the Allen wrench, Allen key weight to press down on the wire. Ground wire. I guess the only compression comes from the Allen screw coming down on top of the wire. So that purpose is just to hold it in the body of the machine. But I can work with that. And so I've got two of those. Can't find the other nut that holds that bushing in place. Okay, well, I can save this power switch, this on-off switch. It's just pushed through with expandable clips on the one side. There we go. Put that in my switch bin. I had a washing machine I stripped down for parts because it wouldn't work. And after I had torn into it, I came across something on the internet that says there's a reset. What? Because it was like, you know, one of these digital, that's the first I'm hearing about a reset on a washing machine. Now, I'm not saying that was its problem, but I would have liked to at least have tried to see if that was a problem, you know, do the reset on the timer. I think that's how you reset them, where you're supposed to twist it so many times in one direction. I don't know, but there was a procedure for resetting this, I think it was a Maytag washing machine. But I parted it out, and can't say I've made a lot of money on the parts. The only good thing is that it came with a dryer, and I sold the dryer, and it brought me a decent buck. I sold that last year. And I got it from a house where they said, take whatever you want. You know, we're done with this house. It was, I think, a woman's father-in-law who had passed away, and they were estranged anyway. So they said, take whatever you want. And I made some money off some of the stuff that I took from the house. So well, I'm going to take out this last coil in here. I'm really disappointed they're aluminum, because I was kind of looking forward to trying to get the copper out of the coil. But after I remove this coil, like I said, they're still pretty heavy, so I'll just throw it on my scrap metal pile. And I think I'll throw this shell in the garbage. There's another nice braided copper wire in here. It's only about 8 inches long, but I wish I had something to rant about. But I guess life's good. I don't want to call any curses down on myself just so I have something to rant about. Okay, back to 10 millimeter again. Where did 10 millimeter go? Let's heat this coffee up one more time. Church coffee. I go to a church that you are welcome to bring your coffee in with you during the service. And they actually will sell cups of coffee there if you don't bring your own. A lot of people have their travel mug, whether it be coffee or energy drink or tea. But we have a little coffee bar there, and whatever the church sells in coffee and donuts goes to the missions. I used to volunteer. It was before COVID. I was one of the people that worked the coffee bar, and I enjoyed doing that. They said, so we need a volunteer. We need a volunteer for one for the early service and one for the latter service. I said, well, ain't no big deal. I'll just do both services. So I'd get there before the first service and sell coffee, and after a couple minutes after the first service started, you shut down the coffee bar and go join the service. And then maybe a couple minutes before that service actually ended, you would go and start the coffee bar up again for the people coming into the second service, or the people who wanted coffee, who were in the first service but wanted their coffee after the service. And then I would be there to serve the people, like I said, coming in for the second service. And then you would shut it down when the second service started. And that was the end of the coffee bar for Sunday. And I did that for, I think, 2 years. But then COVID, and things got weird. We still were having church service, but we were having it in parking lots, and we'd sit in our cars. It's kind of like a drive-in theater type dealio. So there was no coffee bar. Although they did have a coffee cart, but I wasn't involved in that. A coffee cart in the parking lot, and if you wanted to buy a cup of coffee while sitting in your car, they would do that. But when COVID was, when the big stink was over, I didn't go back to being a volunteer in the coffee bar. All right, well, it looks like done here. This is going into the trash. I know it has a tin frame, but I ain't gonna bother with it. I still see, I guess there's a little motor for running the wire feed. Well, let me snip these remaining few wires out of here. After all, they are copper. I remember my brother and his friend, they would save wire, and when they got a huge amount of it, they would throw it on into the fire and burn the insulation off, then just take the wire with the burn off insulation to the scrapyard. I wouldn't want to be around their neck of the woods when they're burning all that plastic. Me, I just hope to be able to run it through a stripper, wire stripper. All right, well, thanks for watching my video. Remember, like and subscribe, leave a comment. Thanks, everybody. Secondhand Dan signing off. Bye.